Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing 3 more Nicktoon Christmas specials. This is my 3rd year in a row now doing this, and so I'm kicking it off this year with ChalkZone, When Santas Collide. And I don't think I saw this episode at the time it aired, but I did remember the song, because I probably was in commercials. It's very cute, and this whole episode just brought a smile to my face. I wasn't expecting to be filled with such joy watching this. It was exactly what I needed, honestly. I'm just wow, this is so cute and heartwarming and filled with such joy and just so much fun. Exactly what you want out of a Christmas special. And I talked about this show a few years ago. I love the premise of this show. The idea of just ChalkZone. I can't get over how creative. I just love that premise. I really do. I just think it's so fascinating and amazing. It's surprising to me that this show wasn't more popular because I think that's such a creative idea. It only had 40 episodes, 4 seasons, 40 episodes, 159 segments, but that's because for the most part it was 3 segments per episode, not including the little music videos at the end. But this one obviously is just the full 22 minutes. But my gosh, it's so much fun, this show. A movie for this show would have been such a visual spectacle, what they could have done with a bigger budget. I'm just envisioning that now. My gosh, that would have been really amazing because you could have expanded then the world of ChalkZone, different worlds within ChalkZone. That would have been amazing. Oh my gosh. Regardless, it's a solid show. It's so much fun to revisit, and it made me laugh and it made me tear up. So I got the both, spectrums of emotion there, so I'll get there. But, so it's cute though with Rudy in particular, how it starts out with him excited about the gift that he wants this year, which is those special artist pens. And then the dad, though, immediately when he's oh, don't expect to find those under the tree, and then that's when Rudy's mood turns moody. Then he gets moody, and then he's huh? And then he's mad, and then he's pacing with his dad as his dad is pacing because the dad's all worried about, the Santa costume that hasn't arrived yet. But what's so funny is when he looks outside on the porch, you see the package. That's a fun detail. You see the package near the house. So then when Millie's sister shows up, and then Tilly, gotta love rhyming names, and then Tilly's daughter Sophie, Rudy's little cousin, who's so damn adorable and just keeps saying, "Santa come?" She's so cute. And they're both voiced by Grey Delisle. That just makes me think, Rudy as an older brother would have suited his personality well, because Rudy, honestly, unsurprisingly, he reminds me a lot of Tommy Pickles because, of course, they're voiced by the same voice actress, E.G. Daly. But even just, with, that leadership quality to him. So I love Rudy. He's a fantastic protagonist. But him as an older brother, specifically with a little sister, I feel would have been so adorable. But, similar with having this, his little cousin, so cute. But suddenly I think with Penny, I know she's as far as I know, they're both, she's an only child also, but her having an older sister, I feel would have suited her character too. Because then they may be in the shadow of her older sister, because Penny obviously is so brilliant and intelligent, and so then she shows up too, and then she has the box. She's oh, I found this box, here, and then he's so excited, Joe, it's oh good, my Santa costume arrived. And as always, with Christmas specials, then when he puts it on later on in the episode, it turns out it's an Easter Bunny costume. Always an Easter Bunny joke, it seems, in these Nicktoon Christmas specials, as I've talked about, the past couple of years. That's too funny, how it's just something that seems to come up a lot. But it's so cute how, close Penny is with the Tabuti family, she's a close family friend. Obviously, her and Rudy are best friends, and, there's something more between them, obviously. I mentioned this because it stood out to me again. It just stands out to me now. I mentioned this when I talked about ChalkZone a few years ago, that if they were a couple, the relationship dynamic would be exactly the same. They're already best friends, but the way they act sometimes, it's as if they're already a couple, and there's kids, so they obviously that wouldn't be until years later for them realistically, but they they hold hands a lot, just in this episode alone, like at least 3 times I noticed. They just like hold hands, and it's just like a casual thing of love and mutual respect for each other, and just like, they're best friends, but like they love each other too, and it's very cute. It's just so adorable. They're so cute together, even though they're not technically a couple, but obviously they go on to get married. There's like no doubt in my mind with them. They're so cute. But anyway, so that's adorable to me. So before all that, when Rudy gets sent to his room, because then like he's being a grouchy grouch or a Scrooge, whatever, because he's just like upset about like that he's not going to get the pens that he wants, and then he's like, oh, what's the point of this holiday, whatever. It's just like he's so upset, like, which is very relatable with a kid. It's like, it's like, oh, I want what like he wants, what he wants for Christmas, and then just like, nope, you're not going to get it. So that's kind of like, him being a bit moody, but whatever. Then of course he ends up in ChalkZone, and then Millie tells Penny, it's like, oh, go upstairs and like just whatever, cheer him up or whatever. And she's like, okay. And then she sees the board turned in, and then like, of course he's in ChalkZone. So that whole aspect of the show too, like the fact that it's a secret, that's always like a fun thing in these shows, like when the character has like a secret that only very few people know, like in this case Penny, his best friend, so like his trustworthy friend. So, and then of course, like as soon as she enters ChalkZone, she sees like he's celebrating with Snap, and they're singing that Merry Chris Hanukkah song, and it's so cute. And gosh, the state of the world that we're in right now, what a beautiful thing of just having all of these different people and creatures and objects of ChalkZone coming together, singing and celebrating each other's holidays, like, all unified together, celebrating, like, everyone with their different cultures and backgrounds. What a concept, honestly. Like, that's a beautiful thing in and of itself, truly. And just like all celebrating that joy and love and friendship and camaraderie. Man, that's all I gotta say. It's lovely and so much fun, though. So then, like, the whole thing with the 8 Santas, which is a fun concept, too, saying how, like, well, kids draw so many Santas, so then in ChalkZone, there's all these different Santas that are gonna go out on Christmas Eve to deliver presents. It's very cute. Except, like, I feel like there would realistically be, like, hundreds of Santas then, but I guess for the sake of simplicity, 8 Santas. And also because that basically matches with the 8 reindeer minus Rudolph, but Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. Is that all of them? I think so, yeah. But yeah, so then also there's General Elvis, who's just like a little elf, but he's Elvis, and that was so funny to me too. I was like, oh, I did not remember that, the Elvis. And he's like, oh, thank you very much. Of course, like all the cliches, but so funny. And so then obviously then there's the part when Snap has like his jelly belly soda drink, whatever, and he puts it on the console. So then of course it's like, oh, that's gonna be an issue there. And then sure enough, Rudy accidentally knocks it over and ruins all of the Santas, like gonna take flight. So that ruins the whole thing, unfortunately. So of course he has to step in and help out. And then there's another song when they're singing, like all the Santas singing like Rudy ruined Christmas or whatever, and then Rudy's like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna ruin another Christmas. Like he feels bad, of course. And then, like, he's, like, reining them all in, saying, like, oh, well, we gotta, we'll save Christmas. And, like, the angels, like, like, the kind of, like, the religious symbolism of that. It's very cute. And then, obviously, the whole B story with, Joe trying to find a Santa costume. And it's so, like, throughout the episode with little Sophie just be like, Santa? Like, each time, like, thinking that's Santa. And he's like, no, that's just a robot, kind of like a toy. And then the other 2 Santas who then start fighting, who are like, dressed up as Santa, the 2 people, I guess, there to collect money. And then, like, as they're fighting, and then they drive away, and then she's like, Santa? And then this part made me burst out laughing. I just was not expecting it. Just completely caught me off guard. It was so hilarious to me. But then Joe just goes, no, sweetie, those are just a couple of creeps. Like, I died laughing. I was like, wow, I had to like go back and watch it again. It was so hysterical to me. Oh my god, that was so funny to me. But so then, meanwhile, back in ChalkZone, it's interesting too, because I feel like I must have talked about this too when I discussed ChalkZone, the series, that with the trio of Rudy, Penny, and Snap, because obviously Snap is Rudy's beloved drawing that lives in ChalkZone, And he's always like full of adventure and excitement, and his like catchphrase is "Oi, Kaloy." He says that like several times in this episode alone. I love his accent, his voice. I mentioned that too when I just talked about the show. It's like Brooklyn accent, kinda. It's so funny to me. It's just like so distinct. It just like adds to the joy of his character. But what stands out, like in this episode in particular too, when like literally Snap is trying to pull Rudy one way and Penny's trying to pull him the other way, and then Snap is like, oh no, he's gotta stay and like hang out here in ChalkZone and like with all the celebration and stuff, and then Penny is like trying to take Rudy back, saying, no, well, we have to go back to his family to celebrate Christmas. And it's like, as if like Snap is like the id, like just like the impulsive. It's like, no, we got to have fun. We're here to have fun. And like, you know, because that's his best friend. And then Penny being like like his conscience, like, no, but you know, family's more important and like all that. So like that kind of dynamic is interesting to me, because obviously they kind of have a little bit of friction, Penny and Snap, because like Snap seems to get jealous that Penny is so important in Rudy's life, you know, so I just like that. And then obviously they go on to like have their own friendship, Penny and Snap, and my headcanon is that, I've definitely mentioned this too, that like when Rudy and Penny inevitably get married when they're older and then have kids, then I think their kids would end up in ChalkZone and like be friends with Snap, you know, like if they have a son and a daughter and then they're like best friends with Snap too. I just could picture that to me is just, you know, inevitable in this world of ChalkZone. But so then Rudy has to save the day and dresses up as Santa, and so then, you know, you got Snap there to help him too as an elf, and like the General Elvis is so funny. He's like, oh, I'm all shook up. Like, it's just, again, like so cliche, the cliche Elvis sayings, but it got me. It was so funny to me, so cute, too funny. But so then like when they were delivering the presents, and then like they're in that forest, it's like, okay, well, that's the greedy tree world, we're done there. Like, it's so specific. Like, again, just all like the little world within ChalkZone are too much fun. I just get a kick out of it, my goodness. So then meanwhile, Penny heads back, like when, of course, you know, the dad is like, Rudy, get down here, and then like she walks out, it's like, oh, Mr. Tabuti, well, he's working on a big surprise, let's go, you know, like, of course, like stalling for time. And then, like, she's just singing the, you know, 12 Days of Christmas, and then keeps getting annoyed. It's like, oh, Rudy, like, get down here, like, rejoin this family. And then, like, of course, he shows up in the Santa costume, so, like, he saves the day. And it's like, oh, yep, that was the surprise all along. Like, it works out beautifully. It's too funny. And then little Sophie's so excited, Santa come, like, so cute. Like, that, she's such a cute little girl. Like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. So, you know, it's like a new family tradition, and Joe is so happy, and then like he's passing out all the gifts. And the moment that like just got me and made me unexpectedly teary-eyed is when, you know, he hands them all the presents, and it's very cute. Like for the mom, opera tickets, and for the dad, the magazine about meat, because again, he's a butcher, like too funny. And for the aunt, it was like a lava lamp, I think, and then for little Sophie, a coloring book. And for Penny, a telescope. That's cute. And so then, like, when he pulls out, like, you know, because he's got the whole bag of toys, of presents, and then he's like, and then for Rudy, or something, he says, and then he's like, oh, well, like, then he breaks character, like, as Santa, he's like, oh, wow, the pens I wanted. Like, it's so cute and endearing. And then the dad just says, yep, I told you they wouldn't be under the tree. And then he, like, gets back into character, and he's like, oh, well, I'm sure he's gonna love these, but for now, maybe little Sophie wants to use them to color in her coloring book. And I was like, oh my God, Rudy, you're such a cute kid. Like, you know, sharing his gift with his little cousin, and she's so happy. Like, thank you, Santa. And then they start singing, because again, like celebrating everyone's joy of all these different seasons. And it's so adorable. And then they're just holding hands, because I'm like, these two, they love each other. You know, Rudy and Penny. That's just is very cute to me. Very cute and endearing. So, such a joyous, fun show. I just was like, oh my God, I loved it. So cute. So much fun. So, yeah, ChalkZone just is a very adorable, creative, fun, imaginative show that I really get a kick out of revisiting. Alrighty, so I'll keep gushing about ChalkZone, like otherwise, but to wrap up this segment now let's head on over to hang out with the wild Thornberrys.
Stockings hanging high, the zebra's twinkling bright.
Ooh.
That must mean it's Christmas Eve at the Thornberrys tonight.
The presents were a flop.
the tree is not so green.
A lion ate your dinner and it's quite a frightening scene.
Oh, jingle bells, Darwin fell, Donnie's acting mental. The Thornberrys go Christmas.
Tonight at 8:30, 7:30 Central.
Alrighty, now it's time for Have Yourself a Thornberry Little Christmas. And it's been many years since I'd seen this episode because I didn't watch it when I discussed this show several years ago now on this podcast. But as I was watching it, I started to remember certain key plot points. I was like, okay, I definitely remember where this is headed. But gosh, again, I got unexpectedly emotional. I was like, oh my goodness, you just kind of get in the feels all of a sudden. It just kind of hits you. It's very sweet and endearing. But again, so like when I talked about this show, that this is one of those shows where I appreciate it so much more now as an adult, and mostly because like it feels so grounded in reality outside of the premise of Eliza being able to talk to animals. Other than that, though, the accuracy, that clearly like all the details and like the research the writers put into it with like all these different countries that the Thornberrys go to and just like all the animals and stuff and like preserving wildlife and like, you know, the different things of nature of like how each of these animals behaves and stuff. Like I appreciate all of that attention to detail in addition to just the family dynamic of the Thornberrys, you know? So we got, you know, Eliza and her older sister Debbie, just like perpetually a pouty teenager. Like Debbie is relatable in that sense. Like looking back, it's like, oh gosh, like, yep, I was a moody teenager once. It's like, you know, she'll outgrow it, even though it's just like, she seems like she's so like jaded and stuff, like she is, but it's just like, okay, Debbie, like it's all right. It's like, I feel you, girl, but like, you know, gosh, it's just funny. And Eliza, like, just so endearing in her love of animals, doing anything she can to protect and help animals. So sweet with that. Like, I just love that. And then, like, you know, Marianne and Nigel, their lovely husband and wife dynamic. It's so cute. And then, of course, Eliza and Darwin as best friends. And Darwin, I say this with love, he's such a coward. Like, my gosh, Darwin. But part of his charm is like his British accent, honestly, like kind of that dry humor. But like Darwin's like, come on, Darwin. But like it's that dichotomy of like that contrast with Eliza being so brave, you know, and doing anything she can to help. So like the opening is cute when they get the gift of, you know, stuff for Christmas, but like with the dolls, and then just like she got us dolls, like, you know, their grandma. That's too funny. And then like all the stuff to make a nice Christmas dinner. It's so cute too. And then like they got the Christmas decorations. And like it's a rare like sisterly moment when they're on the same page, Eliza and Debbie, like working together when they had hidden the gift they got for their parents, the camera warmer. And so then the part when Eliza hears like the ostrich on the beach calling for help, and then she's like, oh, please, like, you got to help me keep my eggs warm. And then, like, she puts the scarf and then it just blows away. And then she's like, okay, Darwin, you sit and help her. I'm going to go, you know, get something. And then, like, the camera warmer to put the eggs to keep them warm, which is cute. But then, it's like, that's the first thing. And then, of course, Debbie starts freaking out. And then, like, Eliza lies, saying, like, oh, well, I lost it. It's over there. She's like, oh, I'll go find it, you know. Debbie, because again, like, it's sweet though, like they got that gift for their parents and it's very nice. And then also, meanwhile, Donnie, who's just that endless ball of energy, this kid, like Donnie is really such a great character because he's less civilized than Darwin. And then obviously like that really profound, amazing episode, which I talked about, you know, when I talked about the show as a whole, but that episode when you learn about his backstory and like they end up officially adopting Donnie into their family, like that's incredible, emotional, beautiful storytelling. But so, you know, Donnie's just like a rambunctious little jungle boy, and like when he gets his gift from like, you know, the grandmother, like the pants, he just like blows his nose into it, and then Marianne's like, okay, I guess clothes weren't on your Christmas list. And then later, Darwin's wearing the pants. That's so funny to me. Oh my gosh, like Darwin's so funny. And then like later on, like with like speaking of those ostrich eggs, when he's like, you know, Eliza goes to see, it's like, let's go see how the eggs are doing. And then Darwin just goes, oh, I hope they look like me, because like he's been sitting on the eggs with the like the bits of humor in this show that I wouldn't have picked up on it all as a kid. I don't remember ever laughing out loud at this show as a kid. Similarly with, Rocket Power, as you know, and I talked about it fairly recently on this podcast. But yeah, it's just like, again, it's very delightful. The writing on the show is really strong, and it just really is a fun show to revisit as an adult. But so then the second thing that happens, of course, because it's like, as always, the escalation with things. So then it's the zebra that Eliza tries to help out first with the flashlight, and then it breaks, and then so she heads back to the convy to get more flashlights, but then the parents had left, so then took the flashlights, and then of course she sees the Christmas lights, and so she takes those down, and then it works though to help the zebra from the jackals, so then he runs off. So slowly but surely, more of all of their stuff with Christmas, she's taking it to help the animals. And then of course the third thing, another, crazy thing, when a lion shows up trying to eat Darwin, and poor Darwin though, but that's him being just I'm thinking to myself, just run into the convy too with Eliza. Why is he still out? It's ridiculous. That was a little frustrating to me. But then, of course, give the lion the goose that Nigel's been preparing. And it's so funny too, just a cute moment to me too, as he's cooking earlier. And that's when Eliza had snuck back into the convy to get the camera warmer to use for the ostrich eggs. And then he's cooking, and then Donnie's there at the stovetop, I guess, quote unquote, helping. I don't know how he's helping, but Nigel just says, oh, well, this recipe calls for a pinch of salt, but I think maybe we could use a dash. Or, again, his accent, too, is so great. You gotta love Nigel Thornberry. He's just so funny. He's or perhaps a smidgen. And then, Donnie just, shrieking wildly. He's oh, you're right. A dash it is. Okay. As if there's any distinction with that. Again, just, those small moments that feel so real and, God, this show is so delightful too. It really is. But so then she, wards off the lion. The lion's I'm sorry I chased you and tried to eat you. I was just so hungry, but now I'm going to have a nice nap. So okay, did that too. That's all resolved. But then, in doing so, she gave away everything, the whole Christmas dinner. And she feels bad, but it's she had to save Darwin, but again, Darwin could have run into the convy. Come on, Darwin, but whatever, it's still nice, obviously, but my gosh. And then, of course, when they show up again, Marianne, Nigel, and Debbie, and then Debbie's still upset with Eliza. It's and something else is still missing, as in, of course, the camera warmer, and then, Marianne's where are all the Christmas decorations? And then Nigel's well, at least we still have our goose. Then, oh no, our goose has been cooked. Our goose is gone. Our goose has been goose-napped. I love that too. And so first, Eliza had lied, saying the lights, some birds took them, but then she comes clean, saying it was all because of me. I gave away the camera warmer and the Christmas lights to a zebra and the food to ward off a lion because it was going to eat Darwin. And then, of course, the parents are very understanding, and they say, Eliza, none of that matters. The gift, the food, the lights, those can all be replaced, but we can't replace, we can't get a new Eliza. That's when I teared up. I was oh my gosh, of course, because obviously they have their values. What's most important to them besides family is helping animals. So they're proud of her saying, well, and you helped animals and you saved Darwin's life. That's what's important. And, so that's very, very sweet. And they're just okay, well, we'll try to salvage Christmas. So again, the Thornberrys and Eliza in particular are just people to want to emulate. Eliza's love of animals. And even if she couldn't talk to animals, she would still find a way to help animals, because she loves them so much. So she gets that gift of being able to talk to animals. Between you and me, something amazing happened, Gotta love that. So sweet. But then it's really cute too, how then the animals, through Eliza, the animals show their appreciation for the Thornberrys, and it's as if they're all chirping and roaring jingle bells, and that's so cute. And then Nigel's oh, I could swear that sounds like jingle bells. And then you see the little baby ostriches have been born. They got the camera warmer. They bring it to Nigel and Marianne. Very cute. And then Debbie's just yeah, of course, we're here together at Christmas with the animals. And she's of course we are. Again, with her sarcasm, but it's very sweet. They're all saying Merry Christmas, and Marianne's oh, Merry Christmas, Darwin. It's just very cute to everyone. Merry Christmas, honey. It's just very sweet. So it's just a nice family moment, and Eliza and her selflessness for all these animals, and then they show their gratitude towards her. So that's very cute. And that's all that matters. As always, like, it's not about the stuff. It's about the people you're with and the love you share. So it's so lovely. Like, what a joy revisiting this as well. This is such a wonderful show. And that bond with your family, it doesn't matter where you are as long as you're together. So that's just so sweet, so lovely. And what a beautiful Christmas special. Loved it. So let's head over now back to Ocean Shores for a Rocket Power Xmas.
We wish you a Merry Nickmas. Don't you miss this from here?
On a Merry Nickmas special, Otto and Reggie work hard to buy their dad the perfect Christmas gift.
We can get Dad the surfboard, and this will be the most wicked sick Christmas ever.
But is what he really wants something money can't buy?
I know you're busy, but it's Christmas time, and Christmas is about family traditions.
Catch the premiere of the Rocket Power Holiday Special, Monday at 8:30, 7:30 Central, only on Nickelodeon.
Alrighty, now back at Ocean Shores to talk about a Rocket Xmas, not a Rocket Power Xmas, my bad. Since talking about this show, though, I have now watched the entirety of Rocket Power, all 71 episodes. I was not planning on doing that, but I just kept watching it even after I talked about it on the podcast, and now I've seen the whole show, and I'm like, I wish there was more, but, still, solid run, and again, I'm amazed how much I love it now compared to when I watched it as a kid. Because really, like, the humor just gets me. I was not expecting that. Mostly because it just feels so real, like, especially like with the four friends ragging on each other. That's like a lot of where the humor comes from for me. Just like those little quips and stuff. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's so funny to me, my goodness. And again, like with Twister too. Not enough Twister in this episode for my liking, I will say. But yeah, oh my gosh, too funny. But what's so cute is obviously like highlighting the Rocket family in this episode, and in particular Raimundo wanting to keep alive their family traditions, even though it's abundantly clear from the very beginning of the episode that Reg and Otto have like really outgrown it. It's like he hands them each the ice cream cone with a candy cane, and then Reg is like, do we even like this? And then Otto's like, I don't know, every year I dump it in the, like every year Raimundo gives me this ice cream and every year I dump it in the trash. I'm like, that's a bit harsh, Otto, oh my gosh, but too funny. And then Ray sees the longboard in the window and is just like enamored, and like of course he wants it, but then he's like, oh, but my wallet's a little tight. But then of course Reg gets the idea to go, well, we can buy that board for Dad, and they get the idea to walk dogs because they see Twister doing that, which is cute that he's taking responsibility to, because like, gosh, Twister. It's so funny, like, as I was editing my episode on Rocket Power, the amount of times I say poor Twister, and the amount of times I point out a cute Reggie Otto brother-sister moment, like, my goodness, it's like, and I'm going to do it again with this episode. But also, like, what I didn't really mention that is, like, a key thing in their dynamic is how Reggie kind of does her best to keep Otto in line. Like, when his ego, like, gets the best of him, like, she's kind of, like, the conscience of, like, come on, Rocket Boy, like, get it together. Like, so in this case, too, like, when she's mad at him when, of course, like, he got caught up in them wanting to race Lars, and then, like, Lars is always the antagonistic presence who's, like, he's so, like, oh my gosh, so annoying. Him and his dumb friends, like, his dumb friend is going, like, oh yeah, you're a chicken, moo. Like, is he serious, that kid? My gosh. But then in doing so, like, losing all the dogs. So, oh my gosh. The dogs are so cute. I'm like, oh my gosh, what? And then the part, like, when Otto gets the idea to, walk them by, like, he throws the beef jerky and then he's just, like, riding his skateboard. So, like, makes it fun for them. But then, like, Sam, it's like the dogs are pulling him. Like, that's so funny, too. Or, no, rather, he's pulling the dogs. Like, he has the leash, and, like, they're on his skateboard. So that's so cute, too. But, so, like, with Reggie and Otto, though, like, her kind of keeping him in line, and her just always, like, hello, like, So, like, that's very realistic, too, with that. When, like, when Otto kind of loses sight of what their goal is in this case with, they agree to do all this, to walk these dogs, so it's their responsibility and pick up after them, and, so they can earn enough money to get that board for Raimundo. So that's just very, very sweet. But then, meanwhile, Raimundo, like, kind of embarrassing them, like, when they're looking through the photo album, and then Sam is like, hey, who's this little girl? And Reggie's like, oh, it's just some girl who looks remarkably like me and who happens to be in our family photo. And of course it's like, and then Twister's like, and who's that little kid crying next to you? And then it's, of course, little Reggie and little baby Otto on Santa's lap. How relatable is that, too, of, like, a crying kid on Santa's lap? That's amazing, too. And then the subplot of this story is Tito, like, in like Santa's helpers boot camp with other Santa's helpers, because he wants to be like, trying to like keep his own family tradition alive of being like Santa's helper. And you got like that lieutenant guy who's the lifeguard, but he's like very militaristic, and then he's like trying to show them how to do it, like how to be like Santa's helpers. And he's like, no, you gotta do it like this. Little girl, you will tell me what you want for Christmas. Like, practicing with like a doll. It's so ridiculous, my gosh. But oh gosh. But there's another funny thing, too, like when they have the ice cream cones at the beginning of the episode, when, like, one by one, the ice cream just, like, falls off of each of their cones, Reggie, Otto, and Raimundo, and, like, that just was so funny to me. I'm like, oh, well, there goes the ice cream anyway, because they don't like it anyway, but that's too funny. But it's great, though, with Raimundo, because then, like, it's like, he's so, like, excited about the holidays, but then, like, he's unintentionally like, embarrassing Reg and Otto, but then they're just like, oh, well, we're doing it for Raimundo. Like, it's important to him. Like, Reg has to keep reminding Otto. But then, like, when they're watching, like, that silly Christmas special that he had taped that I guess they liked when they were kids too, like some Christmas special, and then Otto's like, oh yeah, well, here comes the dumb song, and then, like, of course, Raimundo's like, what are you talking about? You guys used to love this. And then, like, he gets upset. He's like, okay, well, fine. I mean, if you don't want to do these traditions, then we won't anymore. So it's like, oh gosh, because like as you watch this, I'm like, oh, obviously it's like rooted in something deeper for him. And then of course, as we find out, it's because, he's like trying to keep trying to keep their mom's spirit alive. And he mentions how important the holidays were to her, like how much she loved them. So that just was so sweet too, that whole scene. I was like, oh gosh. But when they're still trying to do like all the dog walking stuff, that's cute too though. And then like Sam helps them round up all the dogs again, and Twister helps them too, which is very cute, just in time. Like they do all that, get the money just in time, like right before, like as it was about to close. And then it's so cute too how Tito comes through for them. So like he's truly as Santa, like still dressed up as Santa, and like they're in like that hot dog cart as if it's like a sleigh, and then they got all the dogs as if they're the reindeer, and like he's getting them to the store. But then just as it's about to close, and then Reggie's like, where's the money, Otto? And then he's like, oh no, I must have lost it. And then the doggy, though, brings it to him. It's so cute. And he's like, oh goodness, just in time. They're able to get the board for Raimundo. I love that. So then they surprise him, and he loves it. And then, like, just like she said earlier in the episode, she's like, step away from the light, Raimundo, because, like, he's so excited to get the board. It just was very sweet. And again, like, that they came through for him. And then he surprises them with gifts from their mom, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful too, because like that's like one of the rare moments when they mention their mom too. And like for Otto, it was like a gold medallion thing that she had found, and then for Reggie, it was like this little jewelry box thing of like a surfer, like something that she had won. And then he says like, oh, she never turned down a competition. So clearly Otto got that from his mom, and like Reggie too, how they're just so, their love of sports and surfing, that just was very cute. And then Reggie gets all teary-eyed. She's like, this is the best gift ever. And Otto says ditto. So adorable. My gosh. So, but like it is relatable though, obviously as kids, like when you're outgrowing stuff, and it's like, oh, this is so embarrassing, like our dad embarrassing us. But then of course it's like, that's why it's so important to him, because it's like rooted in like when they were kids and missing their mom clearly around this time of year. But then like he realizes, okay, well, it's time to make new Christmas traditions. And then like they're surfing, all three of them on the longboard. It was very cute. I loved that. And there's a part too though, like when Otto and Reg fist bump, and I'm like, wait, they didn't do woogity woogity woogity. I was like, oh, that stood out to me. I was like, oh, I wonder why they just like did a fist bump instead, because they were like, yeah, we got this, That was cute though. And again, this show like really brings me so much joy. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And since I'm on the subject of rocket power though, I have to bring this up. I can't not bring this up, that since talking about it, I have since met one of the voices of Squid. I met Gary Leroy Gray, and that was a result of a convention that was canceled the day before. It was a whole thing, but then one of the guests who was supposed to be there, he put together just this impromptu hangout to just, come down and chill and talk to people. And so I went to that, and it was an absolute blast. And Gary Leroy Gray was there. So, of course, I got the opportunity to briefly chat with him. I got a picture with him. But this is so, in hindsight, I cringe at myself. But I'll share it with you. It's not that cringy. But to me, I'm just like, oh, my gosh. But so... I just told him, I was like, I love Squid. I was like, I can't believe it's been 25 years. He was like, I know, I'm so old. I'm like, no, you're not. He's only a few years older than I am, but I digress. But then I was like, oh, and I gotta. So I held my hand out, as if, I held my hand out. So, you understand. And then, I realized after the fact, I was like, oh, God, wait a minute. He has his drink in one hand and his phone in the other. I'm like, wait, he can't. But then, he looked down. He's like, oh, yeah, woogity, 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 woogity. I was like, okay. Thank you. I was like, you made my day. I was like, oh, God. So my awkward ass, like, oh, yeah, no, it's woogity. But I'm like, oh, wait, no, his hands are full. But he understood what the hell I was doing, thankfully. So, oh, my gosh. Awesome as always. So much fun. And Merry Christmas. And with that, that's going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Check out storytellingsaga.com. And as always, feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by emailing me at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.